In this first installment, we will be talking about the basics of the 9th Commandment. In Exodus 20:16, it says, "You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor." For this discussion, we will be focusing on three different parts. The first part, we will be looking at the commandment from the perspective of lying. Then we will explore bearing false witness as an example of libel. And finally, we will examine this commandment from the vantage point of loving our neighbor. Are you ready? Let's get it started. Let's look at lying first. In Exodus chapter 20, verse 16, when the Hebrew authors wrote this scripture, they used the word sakir as the verb in this sentence. Sakir means falsehood or deception. Furthermore, on page 344 of our text by Miller, he informs us that this phrase, ed sakir, translates to mean a witness of falsehood. If we look strictly at the translation, we could possibly rationalize that the focus of the 9th commandment is to condemn the act of lying. Let's look even deeper. Various scripture references across the Hebrew Bible allude to the connection of lying and falsehood to the existence of evil doing and physical violence. Exodus 23 verse 1 states, "You shall not spread a false report. You shall not join hands with the wicked to act as a malicious witness." Furthermore, Deuteronomy 19 verse 15 through 21 states, "A single witness shall not suffice to convict a person of any crime or wrongdoing in connection with any offense that may be committed. Only on the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses shall a charge be sustained. If a malicious witness comes forward to accuse someone of wrongdoing, then both parties to the dispute shall appear before the Lord, before the priests and the judges who are in office in those days, and the judges shall make a thorough inquiry. If the witness is a false witness, having testified falsely against another, then you shall do to the false witness just as the false witness had meant to do to the other. So you shall purge the evil from your midst. The rest shall hear and be afraid, and a crime such as this shall never again be committed among you. Show no pity. Life for life. Eye for eye. Tooth for tooth. Hand for hand. And foot for foot." I'm not bringing my foot all the way up here. But it seems as if the writer, that all that wasn't in the scripture, but it seems as if the writer was pretty serious about this lying thing. But there might just be a little bit more to it than lying about something. Let's look at the second part of this discussion. In the Deuteronomic account of the 10 Commandments, the verb used for the commandment is not the same Hebrew verb used in Exodus chapter 20 verse 16. Instead of it saying sakir, it uses the Hebrew verb saw, which is the same verb used in the 3rd commandment, where it says not to use the Lord's name in vain. This implies that there is an element of this commandment that may stretch further than forbidding the children of Israel to lie. To do something in vain, my brothers and sisters, is to do something with an empty or useless intention. Let's put 2 and 2 together. If the 10 Commandments were used as the law code for a nation, and the commandment is telling us not to bear false witness against our neighbor, then maybe the purpose of this commandment is to keep people from giving testimony in the court of law that would corrupt justice from taking place. In our modern day context, we call this libel. So in addition to the 9th commandment being about lying, it also seeks to prohibit testimony or witness in the court of law, which would hinder the ability of one's neighbor from receiving justice. And finally, just as much as we have explored the thou shalt not aspect of this commandment, let's see what this commandment is telling us to do. Miller states, telling the truth is thus a neighbor matter. It is a form of loving our neighbor. What that means for us is that when we seek to obey the 9th commandment, it is not just a dictation for us not to lie, but God is also using this commandment to protect our neighbor with honesty and our integrity when it comes to their well-being. Particularly when it comes to the legal aspect of this commandment, being able to tell the truth about our neighbor, for our neighbor, or on behalf of our neighbor allows for the community to be protected from the violence and the hatred and other evil forms that could possibly arise from false truth. Well, this concludes part 1 of the 8th Street Ministries online class on the 9th Commandment. Please stay tuned for part 2. God bless.